Hey, what up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you today. I just got done at the gym listening to the Chris Jericho podcast with The Miz. The Miz has always been a guy who's always been one of my favorite dudes. I've been really a big fan of this guy ever since he really came up and got on the radar screen. I think the biggest time I was ever a fan of this guy was the Bash 09. I was lucky enough to go to that event in Sacramento, California at the Arco Arena. And he went up against I guess one of the biggest stars in WWE at the time, and that was John Cena. And I was really thinking that match was going to be the match that really put him on the map. I mean, at the time on Raw, Miz kept finding fluke ways in order to say that he was beating Chris Jericho at the time. He had that armband he would wear, and it would say like Miz 4, Cena 0, things like that. Just how he was able to get one up on this guy. And when it came down to the Bash 09, it was ass-kicking time for John Cena. The Miz, if I can remember, got barely any offense in there at all. And it was just, better luck next time. You would go fast forward a year into 2010, he would win the Money in the Bank. And as everybody knows, he would go on to headline the next year's WrestleMania. He was sort of like an afterthought, though, with The Rock and John Cena, using all of that to build up into WrestleMania 28. And I don't know, I've been really thinking that, when was the last time The Miz really did anything in wrestling that was really meaningful at all? If I really think about it, it's back at WrestleMania 28. He was able to get the win for the John Laurinaitis team, and John Laurinaitis promised him that if there was anything that he needed, John was going to make sure that it happened. You would think that was going to turn into some sort of a title shot or some sort of an advantage for Miz, and down the road, and just within a week, maybe even 2 weeks, that whole thing was just dropped. And never seen anything of it. If you go back to my WrestleMania 29 videos, I was saying how much of a crime it was to have Wade Barrett and The Miz in the pre-show to the match for the Intercontinental title. How, these guys were the future of the WWE, and then here you are, you fast forward a year later, and The Miz and Wade Barrett just seem like they're afterthoughts of the WWE, like they're never really going to, be what their once potential was. 2010 were big years for both of these guys, with Wade Barrett being a leader of the Nexus, The Miz being your WWE champion. And just, there was a podcast with Dave Meltzer, Wrestling Observer, and it was a guest spot with Mick Foley where he was on there to pump out his WrestleMania contest with Rain when he was trying to get those last-minute buys for everybody to get entered into the contest to make as much money for this as they could. They were doing the interview, and one of the questions where they were talking about how Mick Foley was really used in big spots with guys to really get them over and show their toughness. Of course, the one thing that really comes to mind is the match with Randy Orton, throwing Orton into the thumbtacks and having Orton trust him. And, people looked at Randy Orton in a better light. And if you look at after that match, come SummerSlam, he won the WWE Championship for the first time. If you go back to WrestleMania 28, there was a lot of rumors that The Miz was going to go up against Mick Foley in some sort of a match. And I was really hoping for that match. I don't think it would have been the best wrestling match in the world, but hopefully they would have been able to tell some sort of a story to make The Miz look like he was less of a whiny geek. I mean, but that is one of the best attributes there is for The Miz in my mind. Just that, the way that I look at Ryback is the way that I look at The Miz. They're both portrayed in the wrong direction. I know that The Miz sort of seemed like he had done everything as a heel. And, The Miz is the guy that they like to put out there on the promotional things. They go to, the Good Morning Sacramento, or they go do the local radio shows. And, they do, all the time to make sure they do all the interviews. And he talks about that on the Jericho podcast. How, you never know when one thing's going to lead to another thing. And he talks about going on and just doing one guest spot, leading him doing his own radio show talking about fantasy football. But, just because I think he does all those, and he visits the children's hospitals and everything like that, and passes out the wrestling figures and shares good joy and everything like that, The Miz is portrayed as a good guy right now, even though that, when I watch Raw and I see him on TV, he's like that goody two-shoes guy that wants to be bad, but he just doesn't know how to do it anymore. It's kind of weird to watch him. He pushes the limits enough that he's not a heel, but he sort of still is a heel. He's in this question mark space that just really honestly doesn't make any sense. When I look at Ryback's sort of like a big-time heel that, should be used that way, but not when he's losing matches constantly over and over and over again. Ryback is a guy that, should be as a good guy like he was in 2011. He should be dominating guys, and if he did drop a match here and there, it wouldn't be the end of the world. Almost like when Mark Henry is a babyface, but portrayed in a different, it made him look at a bigger stature. If everybody can remember what Ryback did, he really moved the needle at that Hell in the Cell pay-per-view, and then, the whole heel turn with him joining up with Paul Heyman and going up against CM Punk, going up against John Cena. Really, really bad stuff. But honestly, in my mind, when I look at what's going on in the WWE, I understand that, you have John Cena, The Undertaker, who the fuck else out there, Triple H. A lot of these guys, come back and do these one-match WrestleMania spots. But in the long run, you kill, WrestleMania for, who the guys who really put you to the spots. I remember last year looking at the WrestleMania card, seeing Antonio Cesaro wasn't on it, Kofi Kingston wasn't on it. And even though I'm not the biggest Kofi Kingston fan, it's still a slap in the face to the people who watch Raw every week and see this guy. And, when it comes down to the big event, it's just sort of like, well, we're going to put you on the WrestleMania pre-show because there's nothing else for you. They developed into this Andre the Giant Battle Royal, and it's a way to get everybody on the card, and maybe this match is going to mean something. I'm predicting them to give the Andre the Giant statue to Alexander Rusev to get the win in this match, but I'm not 100% sure, you look at the faces on there, and there's a lot of guys on there, like there's a 3-man band on there. I like to see them on TV. I don't really get to see them enough. But I mean, like, you pick out the guys like Dolph Ziggler won the World Heavyweight Championship after WrestleMania last year. He cashed in on the Monday Night Raw. The Miz is a former champion. There's Sheamus. There's The Miz is back there. A lot of guys. Really, I could live without seeing Big Show in a match at WrestleMania. That's just me. I'm not the biggest Big Show fan. If I met him and shook his hand, I'd smile, and it's an honor to meet that guy again, for everything he's done in the past. But honestly, to me, he doesn't have the appeal to me anymore. But I understand, like, my little cousin Michael, who went to the show with me in December, thinks the world of Big Show. Like, he really is the Giant. He looks at him like he is Andre the Giant from back in the day, probably the same way I would look at him. So I understand the reason why he's still around. But I don't know, a whole lot of wasted talent in that Andre the Giant Battle Royal. Really like to see them use in a different direction, and just like The Miz, find some way to turn this guy around, because he is a talent. I really think he is the future of the WWE. He needs to be a heel. He needs to be, like, especially because of his size. He's not the guy who's going to go out there with like a Ryback or a who the fuck is another really big guy? I don't want to say like the Great Khali or the Big Show, but just any bigger wrestler is going to have the size advantage, the muscular advantage, and just he has to pull out those street smart heel tactics of rolling guys up, hitting them into the exposed turnbuckle. I don't care if you steal William Regal's brass knucks. Whatever it takes, it got him to the point where everybody hated him. The one point in wrestling when I was watching most consistently was the one time when the champion was the guy that I hated the most. I hated Randy Orton and Legacy, but I didn't want to miss a show because I knew somebody was going to beat him. And once they finally got to that show, I wanted to make sure that I had my butt in a seat and I was watching it. Had a smile on my face that finally Legacy and Randy Orton had lost the title. But that's about it. Go check out those Miz podcasts. The WrestleMania one with Mick Foley where he asked the question about The Miz. That was posted last week. The Jericho with Colt Cabana was probably a few months ago. You can find it on iTunes. And then today, Talk is Jericho with The Miz. Awesome interviews all around. The Jericho one is probably the best. And we'll go from there. Peace out, baby. Click 30.